favorite podcast of the week, Teach Me Bees. I'm your host, Dave Westcott, and I've got with me Scott the Beekeeper and Cassie of Honeybee Centre. Good morning.
Good morning.
You have a lot of bee products back there.
Yeah, lots of stuff.
Can you tell us what we're looking at?
Yeah, so I am beekeeper Cassie, and I'm based here in Surrey, BC, Canada, and we are in my honeybee classroom. And so this is one of the corners of the classroom. This is the corner I call beekeeper.
That's cool.
Yeah, so it's got lots of different beekeeping equipment, supplies, etc. So we can gives us some good content to talk about beekeeping with children.
I love that. I noticed that you specialize in teaching beekeeping to children.
So they say.
So they say. It's the rumor around the campfire.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So that's, this is the intention of the classroom is that, so in the classroom space, I do 3 field trips a day,
Wow.
during the spring, at least, in the winter, in the fall, winter, maybe 2 to 3 a day, but definitely 3 a day in the spring. And so we're bringing in mostly elementary school kids, but also preschool age children and adult programs as well, all ages. But our primary target is about a grade 1, 2, 3. And somehow I think that bees match up beautifully with their curriculum. And so we see a lot of kids. I think I did some stats last year. I did 225 field trips last year.
Wow.
For over, I think it was over 5,000 children came through our program. So
wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess
Awesome.
kind of the expert.
That's amazing. And you know what? This is such a fun age because my kids are this age, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
they are just so inquisitive and these little memories just stick with them.
It does. Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's kind of fun because my kids and I are taking the beginning beekeepers class.
Okay.
But I'm teaching it to them. So
How's
every
that going?
Wednesday, it's amazing. We have so much fun. Every Wednesday for an hour, my 2 kids, Madeline and Dave, they hang out and we go through the beginning beekeeping course. And we don't necessarily follow it like to the T because we'll look up some videos on YouTube to help explain some things and we'll, show them some visuals. But I'll tell you what, not a week goes by where they don't know something new about bees, where they're not inquisitive about bees, where they're not excited about planting flowers for bees. They know, hey, you want to save the bees, plant flowers.
Yep.
So I love this age.
Yeah.
Scott will be there someday.
Yeah.
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 It's great. Cassie, could you tell us a little bit about yourself so our audience is familiar with you? And then how did you get into this classroom thing? And for those who are just listening, go check out the video because behind her is 15 bee suits, frames, honey, smokers. She's got it going on here. It's really, really cool. Tell us a little about yourself and how you got into the classroom teaching aspect of things.
Sure. So I married into a beekeeping family. I've been part of this family for about 20 years. And prior to coming here to Honeybee Centre, I originally was trained as a preschool instructor, so had my early childhood education diploma. And then I worked for our local municipality and I did lots of recreation programming. So I kind of evolved through preschool, after school programs, adult programs, etc. And at the end of my 19 years with our city, I was developing facilities and spaces. And one of the programs that really sticks with me is I helped design and implement an outdoor preschool. So that was kind of one of my, swan song exit projects that I did when I left the city. So then when I came over here, so my father-in-law, had run this Honeybee Centre for 20 years and was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm retiring. I'm going to sell the business. And my brother-in-law and I were like, you can't walk away from this. So we came over, and since there was 2 of us replacing 1, we sort of toyed around with like, what can we do? And at the end of the day, I had this beautiful opportunity to sort of merge my two passions. And so I've always loved insects. I didn't know a lot about bees other than watching my father-in-law. I was always, of course, fascinated by the honeybees, but I came over here, we had this empty space, and I was like, I just built an outdoor preschool for the city. I can build a bee classroom. Why don't I build a bee classroom? Nobody's doing that. So the Honeybee Classroom was born, and the concept is at the very grassroots of the concept. It's about making kids curious about insects, about bees, so that they're not scared. And I very, very fiercely believe that if kids are interested and curious, they're going to be more likely to help creatures in our environment. And of course, I'm specifically talking about bees, but it extends to just, being a good human. So I started by going back to our local BC curriculum with the public school system, and then designing a field trip program that aligned with sort of every aspect of the BC curriculum, so that I could market a field trip to elementary schools that teachers would be like, how can I pass up on this? It checks all of the boxes. And then I started faxing. I just spent 3 weeks by a fax machine, faxing off my information to any school that I could find a fax number for. And then within a year, I was sold out. Because people are, as we know, bees are very trendy. And nobody is, there's no such thing as a person who specializes in early childhood and honeybees. So there's my little niche, and that's what I do. And so now I've sort of expanded it to, like I say, all ages, and an open classroom on the weekends, and lots of beekeeping courses for kids, sort of bucket list type experiences, special events, but really anything that I can do to make people curious, and then therefore help the creatures in our environment.
That's amazing. Cool. How much does one of these field trips cost?
So right now I'm charging, I have a base rate of $8.25 per child to come through the program. And then there's add-ons that they could add on. So we can add on honey tasting for 75 cents. And then we can add on beeswax candle rolling for $3.25. And extra time is an add-on, and etc. And that's sort of our base classroom content program. And then we sort of build all the way up to a more sort of specialty private program. So I do a program called Junior Beekeeper, and that one starts at about $200. And then you can bring up to, I think it's 8 people. Yep, that's right, 8 people. And then basically I do sort of the basic safety lesson and queen worker drone, egg larva pupa. Then everybody gets set up. They come outside like the smoker with me, and then I take them in through a hive inspection and let the kids sort of get in the hive and handle some frames and, take some photos and do that kind of stuff.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay. How many kids are on each one of these tours?
So anywhere from, in a classroom presentation, it will be anywhere from, a small group might be 15 up to say 60 or 80 kids could be sort of the biggest program. Yep.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
A lot of little kids. Yeah. Yeah.
It is though, but it's so special.
It's so fun.
Do they leave with anything? Do they get a little sticker or a bee or do they leave with anything?
No, what we do is every kid plants a bee-friendly wildflower to take home and plant in their garden and feed the bees.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So, setting kids up with the tools to, get started and caring about pollinators in their environment. And, they walk out of here. I mean, I wish that I got to go to a Honeybee Centre when I was a little kid and, take a close look at the bees and plant some flowers and, play with all the toys and dress up like a beekeeper. So basically, I always think to myself, what would I have wanted to do when I was 8? And then I'm making it happen.
I think I would have just eaten the honey.
Yeah, we do that too. Yeah.
Super cool.
That's good. So you have hives on site then?
I have. So I have an observation wall. So we're in the classroom right now, but there's also a store. And so that's where we sell all of our honey. So I'll take a step back. I'll tell you a little bit about Honeybee Centre. So my father-in-law started Honeybee Centre 22 years ago. It was a commercial beekeeping operation, and he's renting his bees to blueberry growers in the Fraser Valley. So he started with a couple hundred hives, rented them out to blueberry farmers. They got the pollination service. We got the monofloral honey. So right in his very first year, he realized that the operation wasn't big enough, and it started to expand right away. And so our main business at Honeybee Centre is commercial blueberry pollination. So my husband is managing that now. We have about 6 to 8 beekeepers in a season that work with Lee, my husband, and they are going blueberry, and then so all the bees go to blueberry. So that's 6,000 colonies go into blueberry pollination. And then from there, they either go to cranberry, raspberry, blackberry, or clover fields. And so we produce those monofloral honeys here at Honeybee Centre. So the main business is the pollination. And then the second part of the business is we have a shop where we sell all of our honey and different products at the hive, gifts, that kind of stuff. And in the store, there's an observation wall. So anytime you come to Honeybee Centre, unless, it's the middle of the winter and the bees have to be pulled out because the colony strength isn't strong enough, there's an observation wall at the back of the store that people can see the bees all working away in. And then the classroom would be booked privately other than our open classroom time on Saturdays. So most Saturdays we have a drop-in where people can just come in and check out the store and the classroom. But during the week it's all by private, either field trip booking or private booking in here. So
Wow.
Yeah. So
you guys aren't messing around over there.
No. So so on site, so we own 3,000 colonies that we put into pollination. We manage an extra 3,000 on top of our own. So we're brokering those hives. And then I'm running 3 hives here at Honeybee Centre, which is the observation, a Lego hive. Actually, there's 4 right now. I do our local science centers. I do their bees for them. So they're here right now over the winter. And then I have a garden plot in the back. That's the hive that I do all of our beekeeping courses on. And then I also have 20 hives out in the community. So around the city of Surrey, I'm in partnership with our city, and I run 10 community bee gardens where I go out and I manage the bees and the public. And again, the concept is just exposing people to bees and pollinators to make them feel more comfortable having them in their community. So those hives are about 10 minutes from me or 5 minutes from me. So I go up there once a week to manage my winter hives. And then my brother-in-law, who's our general manager, he's doing all of our hotel and restaurant hives. So he's also got about 10 to 20 beehives that he's managing on hotel roofs and commercial properties, etc. So so we're just trying to get bees out there into the community.
You guys are probably the most diverse group that I have spoken with. I'm sure that Scott is just bursting with questions. I'm bursting with questions. I've got 2 questions off the top.
Go ahead, Dave.
I know. That's why I said 2. That way I could get mine in there before you got yours in there. That was a little game I was playing with you. No, but seriously, so I'm so interested in both of these that it's making me crazy. So I'm interested to know what kind of machine, how are you extracting all that honey? That's number 1. And then number 2 is I've never heard of somebody brokering hives in all the shows and all the conversations, thousands of hours of researching, and just I've never heard of this. So I have to know more about brokering of hives and how you're extracting honey. Those are my 2. And then Scott, the rest of the show is yours. I'm sorry, but I missed the preamble with my computer crashing, so I didn't get to have all the fun you guys had in the beginning. That's how I'm justifying my bogarting of time.
Well, you'd have to talk to my husband, Lee. He's our supervisor of beekeeping operation. Our extractor is a 70 frame extractor. I think it's a Cowan. but you know what?
Okay.
Don't quote me. So we do 70 frames in 7 minutes is what we can do, but it does need to be manned by 2 beekeepers. So, so basically we're going into a crop right now. Well, we're on call for blueberries to be at, 5% bloom, and then we'll move into blueberry. They'll stay there for 4 to 6 weeks, and then the honey supers come off and blueberry gets extracted. And then as the bees go into their next crop, they get a new honey super. You know how that works. And then from each crop, so blueberry is our biggest crop other than clover, of course, just because it's really abundant. And then from there, so how it works is that we place our 3,000 colonies into blueberry contracts. But even 20 years ago, there wasn't enough bees in the lower mainland to pollinate lower mainland blueberry crop. So blueberry is a funny plant to pollinate. It's got a long fluted flower. And so most of our native bees avoid it. Their tongues aren't long enough to get into the nectar. So we can, of course, place honeybees, and because they coordinate their collecting effort, they will in fact collect from the blueberry, which results in the farmer getting 8 to 10 times more fruit, bigger, brighter, sweeter. So,
Wow.
So the problem is that there's not enough bees. And so we go around to different beekeepers that, we bring bees from Alberta, we bring bees from sort of further east, and bring them over. And then either, in most of the cases, there's different agreements that we have with different beekeepers, but for one price tag, we manage the bees for them for a different price tag. They get to manage their own bees, but we are just finding that we're connecting the farmer to the beekeeper, so that at the end of the day, the result is that the farmer gets blueberry pollination. So yeah, and then after, so we put our 3,000 in plus an extra 3,000 into blueberry. Then from that, when the bees are removed, all of the other hives that aren't ours go home to their beekeeper. And then from there, ours are either going to go to cranberry, raspberry, blackberry, or clover alfalfa.
Okay, that made me
Wow.
think of one more question. I have to ask this. What do you do with them over the winter time?
So all of our bees are wintered here in the Fraser Valley. And so we don't keep them at, as you know, if you had 3,000 bees in the backyard of a honey shop, that probably wouldn't end very well. So basically we have arrangements with different residents, like property owners in this area. And so we put our colonies into, like, in bunches of say 100, 200 per property, all around the Fraser Valley. So after they're done their work, they go and they winter in these beautiful yards that we've made these arrangements with people where they have to have a certain size of a yard. It has to be over 2 acres. They have to have access to blackberry bramble. They have to have access to early season forage. So that might be hazelnut or dandelion forage in the early season, so that any time that the bees are able to fly in the winter, they have access to food, anytime that the bees are able to fly, they have access to food. And in the winter, of course, we're not opening them anymore. So we get them all set up and ready for winter in those winter yards. And then once they shut down for the winter, they're all wrapped. And then we just come back when it's time to start managing them again, which for us is about February 15th.
It gets cold down there in Canada.
You know what? We're really mild where we are. We're right on the border. So yes, we have some cold days. I think that the bigger problem here is moisture. So I always tell beekeepers are like, my hives all died. And I'm like, first, did you check for varroa? Second, was it the moisture? Did you get moisture in your hive? Because our weather is, I think the issue isn't the cold. The issue is the ebb and flow of hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. And so then the bees are they're either starving to death because they think that they're able to fly and there's no nectar reward, or the nectar they're bringing in new nectar and it's not drying, and then you're getting moisture in the hive going into the winter. That'd be my guess.
Okay, that's it for me, I promise. And so, I have like 5 more questions, but go.
You know how to find me.
That's super interesting. My question, I was going to ask about overwintering things, but related to that is just beekeeping in Canada in general. Could you maybe, a lot of our audience is going to be US based, but you're not far from us, you're just across the border. Could you maybe share, are there differences between beekeeping in Canada, beekeeping here in the States? I'm assuming you don't like drive to California for almonds, does all your pollination happen in Canada? Could you maybe just share a little bit about some of those kind of things?
Yeah. So a couple things. I mean, okay, so the things that I would say are the same are Varroa. And the bees are the same. But I'm only about 20 minutes from Washington, and like we're right on we would be the climate would be very similar to Montana, right?
Okay.
So we're where I am, but Canada is very large, and so up north they just have a very short season. So the major difference I would say is the season. So here in British Columbia, sort of southern British Columbia, our season opens up on about, we say, February 15th. That's about when you can do your first hive inspection. But the further north you go, as you can imagine, the colder it gets. And so their season is starting, of course, later into maybe March, maybe the beginning of April. So they have to, I would just imagine, I'm just guessing, but they would have to have a very healthy getting ready for winter routine, because those bees need to be nice and well fed and very Varroa free going into a very long winter where they're holding their poop. So you need to not have nosema, and you need to, although don't we all want really healthy bees? We haven't really experienced hive beetle yet. We've just started seeing just a tiny little bit of it coming up across the border. So that's something that we really haven't had to contend with yet, but it's coming with the climate getting warmer. We're starting to get that. We just like Washington, we had 2 summers ago, I guess it was, we had the giant Asian wasp incident. So we had just a few of them show up in Langley, which is kind of one town over from us. The first one that was found was brought here to Honeybee Centre on a field trip. A mom brought it in, and she's like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "I don't know."
That's
so
crazy.
It was pretty cool.
So you that's like ground one for COVID, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a big deal. So for anybody who doesn't know in the audience, could you share about the giant Asian hornet debacle?
Well, so I always tell people that social media is just really good at doing its job. And so you have to always be very careful. But giant Asian hornet was potentially brought over in maybe bark mulch or some sort of, landscaping supply. And the giant Asian hornet has a hibernating life cycle. So it is easy to transport it over anywhere while it's hibernating, and then it's going to wake up in our climate. And the issue is that our bees haven't adjusted to being able to defend themselves against this predator. Whereas in Asia, where the hornet is native, their bees have strategies to deal with and protect themselves from that predator. So the issue is that when one showed up, and I think a couple showed up, it was just decimating a hive in a day. And so then, it's really scary that this huge, stinging insect comes and it's like your hive is gone in a day. But our agriculture department and our lead apiarist, he was right on it. His name is Paul Van Wessendorp. He was right on it. And a reporting, what do you call that? Strategy came into play right away. And they were finding and tracking them back to their nest. And I don't know that we really had an issue with them this year. So I think that it's relatively managed right now, but it made for really great social media.
Yeah.
But it is a threat. It is a threat because it happened once, it could happen again.
It can happen again. Yeah. Yeah. Just be vigilant, right?
Totally.
Man.
Yeah.
Wow. Your guys' business it's very interesting. You have a lot of avenues, a lot of, from the commercial side to the store, to the classroom, and then brokering, there's a lot of really cool things. If you could give advice to a beekeeper, They may not be a part of something quite like what you're part of,
Mhm.
but what kind of advice, maybe even break it down. Someone who's new to beekeeping, maybe they are a backyard beekeeper, maybe not, but they're new or interested. What kind of advice would you give to them? And then anyone who maybe is looking to move into a commercial or make money with the bees, is there advice you would give them, or something to pay attention to or look out for, etc.?
Oh, that's a big one. I mean, so I'll take a step back and I will say that when John sort of came up with the concept of Honeybee Centre, when he's the founder, he specifically wanted to diversify, because within the agriculture industry, there's so much unknown, right? And so it's like, if you have a year that, it's a really bad honey crop, then we can fall back on our education. Or if we have a year where nobody really wants to come to education, we can fall back on honey sales or pollination or hive rental. But the way that we've made it successful is that we have, even though it's all part of one company, we keep our avenues very separate. So I'm education outreach events. So I'm sort of doing all the people stuff. And then Lee is doing all the beekeeping stuff. My brother-in-law Andrew's our general manager, and so we keep all, and so he's store, and so although we're all communicating and working together, we keep all of our pieces separate so that we can just be really good and specialize at the thing that we're doing, right? And I guess that what I would say is that I spent 19 years working for the city. I mean, it was okay. It was great. It was a good job for me at the time. And when I left, I realized that I guess I didn't know, but all of a sudden it occurred to me is that I could take this thing that I really loved and turn it into my career. And because I had the ability to do that, what shines through is people walk away from a program with me or a presentation with me and they're like, man, like, you love your job. And so then I'll do an after dark and I'll be teaching these women who are coming to like do candle making, and I'll be teaching them all about bees. And they're people who were like coming to do a craft, and then they walk away and they're like, wow, like, you're so passionate about it. I'm going to go home and I'm going to plant flowers to feed the bees. And so the side effect of choosing to do something that you're really passionate about is that it trickles down into your customer, and they're going to see that, and you're going to reap the benefit of that. So I guess that my advice, which is not beekeeping advice, would be figure out the piece that you're really passionate about, and then lean on that to move yourself forward. I would say that it's not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. The thing about beekeeping is that there's loss involved. So, you have to have a little bit of a thick skin. And I would just say to anybody who wants to take up beekeeping, I always say to people, ask yourself why. Why do you want to become a beekeeper? Because if it's about saving the bees, then plant some flowers and feed the native bees. Because that's how we're going to save the bees, is that we're going to, correct the environment and plant native flowers, feed native bees. But if you're interested in honey making, or maybe the science of beekeeping, or the aspects of a social insect, then honeybees are a good option for you. So before you make that commitment, before you buy a hive, ask yourself why, and then spend the time and energy doing the research. Take a course. I tell people all the time, I'm like, you will save more money in the long run if you take a beekeeping course and take something that is close to where you live, so that you can start creating a network, because beekeepers need beekeeper friends.
Totally.
Awesome.
That is great advice. I think that, man, you guys have such an awesome organization over there. That's really phenomenal. So I've learned a ton.
When you do the night making candle class, do they like have to light the candle to find their car or to walk home or something like that?
They have to take an Uber, that's for sure.
That's funny.
Yeah. This has been a great episode.
Yeah, this has been a great episode. This is any final thoughts as we bring this in for a landing here?
Yeah.
Anything you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah, I just recently went to Tennessee for the Hive Life conference back in February. I got invited to speak about inspiring the next generation. And so one of the weaknesses in maybe our beekeeping industry that I've recognize is that there's not this real solid succession plan for beekeeping. And so I really encourage people to share their passion with the next generation. So you were telling me about that this morning, about, you know, that you're doing the beekeeping course with your kids. And that's really awesome, because we need to make sure that there's people out there that are thinking about our environment and thinking about bees. So I always like to end with, go forward, share your passion about bees, inspire the next generation, do what you can do to ensure that we have a bee-friendly future for years to come.
That's awesome.
It's
okay. I
awesome.
got to ask one more question before we go. Scott's like, man, you're killing me on this call. But no, since you're from Canada, favorite hockey team?
Oh, well, I'm gonna have to go with my son's bantam team.
Oh, okay.
But
He
then-
plays for
but
Surrey.
then my son plays for Coquitlam. But I would say the Vancouver Canucks, and my brother-in-law would very passionately say the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I would be amiss if I didn't recognize both the teams.
Okay, so I played junior A hockey for Cowichan Valley Capitals.
Okay.
I can't remember how close that is to you. And then before that, I played junior B hockey for the Osoyoos Heat.
Oh yeah, so Soyuz is just maybe about 4 hours from us. Yeah.
Okay, so I spent some of my youth days living in Canada playing junior hockey.
Oh, there you go.
And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And as a kid, we would drive up to Surrey and
Yeah.
Port Coquitlam and Hastings and
Yeah.
you know, all these little towns and play hockey.
Yeah.
And so we spent a lot of time in Canada.
Yeah.
And who knew? If you have like the coolest beekeeping business that I've run across thus far. Scott, any final thoughts?
You know, with you being in Canada, can Americans come to your shop?
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. And you know, I do a lot of homeschool programs. So homeschool networks definitely come up and book private presentations. So they'll come up and spend the day and do a beekeeping experience. Our shop is open to anybody who wants to come in. We're not going to turn anybody away.
Awesome.
Americans are welcome.
Well, that's great. I always knew I liked you Canadians. I really did. Is there anything people should know about like following your business, following your classroom work, and what maybe are hours for your store if they wanted to come in person and check things out, or you know, how could they follow along and get connected?
So if you're interested in teaching others about bees and you're just not knowing where to get started and you need a little bit of inspiration, I encourage anybody to reach out directly to me. I'm Cassie at honeybeecenter.com. That's CASSIE at honeybeecenter, CENTRE.com. So that's how you get a hold of me. I can also be found on Instagram. And so my Instagram account is at Honeybee Centre Kids, all one word. And then our store is just at Honeybee Centre, which is both Instagram and Facebook. We have an awesome website, www.honeybeecenter.com. And our phone number here is 604-575-BEES. So that's how you can get a hold of us at Honeybee
That's awesome.
Centre. But yeah, reach out to me anytime. Our store is open 7 days a week from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So we'd love to see you in person. Really great days to come are on Saturdays, because we often have our open classroom running on those days. And in the end of July, we do a huge honeybee festival. So we do the bee beards and we do the beekeeping demonstrations, vendors and food trucks, etc. So that's the last weekend in July. So I invite you guys up. This is your personal invitation to come to the Honeybee Festival in the end of July at Honeybee Centre. But for whatever reason, if you're interested in bees, definitely come visit us at any of those places, online or in person.
And I'll tell you this, you definitely do have an incredible website. I checked it out before the show. I mean, you have so many pages. You have like 8 pages of products. You have some sculpting on the candles that is crazy. You have skulls and bodies and ice cream cones and all sorts of awesome things that are happening. And then you've just got a ton of stuff, like from the pollination to the example of pollination. I mean, just it really is a wonderful website. Did you guys build that yourself, or did you have someone do it?
We worked with a local company here. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow,
That's cool.
it's really done well. It's really done well. All right, we're going to bring this thing in for a landing. That was a fantastic show. Check them out, the Honeybee Centre, RE at the end. And I'm Dave Westcott, your host. Follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, social media, YouTube, anywhere where it's happening, we're happening. We're live every Thursday. Check us out. Great show, great fun. And this is definitely one of my favorite shows of all time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.